Welcome back into NFL Daily. 1 week to go before the 2025 NFL trade deadline. Had our first trade in like 2 weeks yesterday. We'll see if we get any more today during our live show. Wouldn't actually be that big of a surprise. We had some happen 2 weeks ago when there was a quick little flurry, and it's been very quiet since then. So between now and the NFL trade deadline, we're just going to get to double digits or not, essentially. 9.5 trades. Over means you get to 10. Under means you get to that figure. Over, under, 9.5 trades between now and the NFL trade deadline. O for over, U for under. Let me know in the comment section of today's show. O for over, U for under. That is not right on the names, though, so I'm assuming you're fixing it. Get those votes in. I hope it's over because it's more fun to have trades than not have trades. They're entertaining. People care about them. I hope we get more. It's just been extremely quiet so far. So O for over, U for under. Lore and William typing in their O's.
5, 6, maybe 7 trades that are just like smaller transactional kind of things. I don't think there's just going to be this big splash that everyone's expecting. I don't think Max Crosby moves. I don't think Trey Hendrickson moves. I don't think Quinnen Williams moves. I think it's going to be smaller players, maybe more so on the lines of like that Alohi Gilman trade, which almost like just fit a smaller need for both teams. It was weird, but it might work out in the end. Okay. I think that's going to be more of what we're seeing next week. So,
okay. Get your votes in. O for over, U for under. All overs coming in so far, which maybe isn't too surprising because life's too short to take the under. I've often said that. I think maybe see some Jets and Dolphins movement. I think what we'll see is expiring guys get dealt. I don't think teams are in any urgent rush to hold on to player or to keep trade players who have multiple years of team control, which are the ones we all want in the end. So Roger McCreary is the most recent player to be traded. Who is the next player to get moved? Get those predictions in the comment section of today's show. Who is the next player to be traded? By the way, Lore and that Red Sox fan, if you put hashtag NFL at the end, it does still work. So it doesn't have to be at the front. For mailbag questions, hashtag NFL somewhere in your comment is actually all we need. Who is the next player to get traded? We'll run through a lot of different trade candidates. I think I got 25 on today's show, and I am fingers crossed that nothing changes between when that video goes out tomorrow and the live show itself. So we'll probably get screwed. It is what it is. I wonder if it's just like the Seahawks finally pull the trigger on a Reek Woolen trade. Like that, kind of feel like we're just barreling towards that at this point. So next player to be traded, Golden Eagle says Shaheed is the next wide receiver to be dealt. If I'm the Raiders, I am trading away Jakobi Meyers, though. Like I don't see much benefit to keeping him, unless you're just getting no offers whatsoever. So Arden Key is a good name. Like I'd actually be surprised if Arden Key didn't get dealt. Like he's not going to be crazy expensive for a team. Edges or needs across the board. I don't think the top names are really that available right now, and I think he is. Tennessee could be playing a waiting game trying to maximize their value there, though. So. It just depends on what comp pick. Because I don't think Jakobi Meyers is going to fetch you that much of a comp pick. Plus, it's a year later, and you wouldn't be able to spend as much as you otherwise would because you have to worry about potentially losing the comp pick. So I think for like a team like the Raiders where money, they'll probably have some cash to spend in the offseason, you're probably actually okay. Because what you don't want to do is like not trade Jakobi Meyers and then end up losing him and then losing the comp pick for him because you spent on somebody else. So I do think that part of the game is undervalued. It's not a guarantee you get a comp pick. I mean, the Cowboys are dealing with that right now, for example, like just one team. They've got like 4 guys who are all on the edge of qualifying and not qualifying. And for them, that's going to be the difference between like a singular 5th-round pick or up to 2 5s and a 7 in the comp pick category. So it's those dangerous things that are always worth monitoring. Thursday night football as we continue our incredible time of the year where there's football on every day. Even lesser college football games are going on today and Wednesday. Nothing too good on that front in terms of like the college football games. Like it's a sicko slate of UTEP and Kennesaw State, and JMU and Texas State. Like it's not the best games. But Thursday night features the Ravens and the Dolphins. Who you got? R for the Ravens, D for the Dolphins. Let me know in the comment section of today's show. Aiden, I believe you're 2 for 2 now for last predictions, or is it 3 for 3?
Tom, we've been pretty hot just like as a group. I got the Giants. I got the Bengals. We picked the Chargers. We picked the Seahawks against the Texans. We picked the Chiefs to win by a landslide. So I don't know the exact number.
Spread and straight up are doing quite well right now.
That's right. So I think
this is 8.5 in favor of Baltimore, by the way.
That is a lot of points.
In Miami.
That is a lot of points for Miami being at home, coming off that win against the Falcons. I think you said this earlier. I can't tell if that's just a good win for the Dolphins, a bad loss for the Falcons, or maybe a little bit of both. I don't know who the Falcons are this year. That said, I'm going to go Ravens money, Dolphins cover.
I think I'm just going to go Ravens straight up on everything. Even on the road, this feels like the Dolphins got their win. Now they kind of come screeching back down to earth. Huge issue. Now, they did a much better job against the Falcons in a way that I was pretty surprised by. Like I thought for sure, wow, Bijan is going to go nuts against this defense. Bijan was extremely bottled up, just 9 carries for 25 yards. They also threw it a lot. Game script may have been a factor in that, but from a run defense perspective, let me read off some of the numbers here as your votes come in. R for the Ravens and D for the Dolphins. Let me make sure I get the right numbers and the advanced numbers here. Run defense perspective on yards per game. The Dolphins check in at 28th, 145 per game, and they allowed 45 last week. So I believe they were like 30th or 31st I think 31st going into that game. They fell back down there. Yards per play wise, they are 30th in the NFL at 5.0, which is extremely bad. If you like advanced numbers like EPA per carry, which is just expected points added, they are better. They're 23rd. So yards before contact, all of these are per next-gen stats, by the way. Yards before contact is 2.01. It's bottom 3 in the NFL. And yards after contact is better in terms of what they are allowing, because they're allowing so many yards before contact. They're 15th league average. Kind of feels like Derrick Henry goes nuts game to me. Feels like, and they get Lamar Jackson back. I like the Ravens. They're healthier now on defense. I think they're gonna take care of business in this one.
Definitely, gonna be a big Derrick game. Lamar being back, huge. It's as you kind of talked about, like it was an interesting game. Like, I don't know if this is going to maybe be a trend that the Dolphins are starting, but if you look comparatively at the job they did with Judkins versus now Bijan, this like most recent week, we're looking at the best running back in football probably, or one of, and then Judkins, who's just a rookie, and Judkins had like 3 touchdowns and like almost 100 all-purpose yards, maybe more, and Bijan got clamped up. So it'll be interesting to watch, but yeah, I'm going to go Ravens here.
I also say that the Bears have a really bad run defense, and the Ravens ran for 177 yards last week, so I like the Ravens this one. Get your votes in R or D. Plenty of R's coming in from Lore and Joel as well. So get those votes in. R or D, who you got? Ravens or Dolphins? Before we get into today's live show, if you want your team to make a move at the NFL trade deadline, whether it's adding someone or losing someone or whatever, like the video right now, please and thank you. Free, simple, and easy to do. Like that video if you haven't already done so. Coming up on today's live edition of NFL Daily, trade rumors. We'll talk about the latest intel updates coming in from across the NFL from different insiders. A mailbag. There are 2 ways to get on the show. Number 1, you guarantee that you get on by super chatting, or at any point in your comment, use hashtag NFL to get yourself in the queue. That way you can bring your question up. It doesn't have to be a question. It can be a comment, an idea, trade idea. I was probably not very nice on our Cowboy show on Monday with some of the trade ideas, but I will try to be nice for the trade ideas if and when they come in. So hashtag NFL or Super Chat all together to get in on the mailbag. And we'll run through the top 25 NFL trade candidates. All coming up live here on NFL Daily. We've got the latest NFL trade rumors, intel, possible candidates from all the notable NFL insiders, Schefter, Rapoport, Russini, and more, breaking down where things sit across the NFL as we get closer and closer to this year's NFL trade deadline. If you guys want more trade deadline updates, news, rumors, live show coverage as well, you've come to the right spot. Hit that sub button, youtube.com/chatsportstv. Let's go to the Quinnen Williams front. Dianna Russini reporting, quote, teams have shown interest in Quinnen Williams, although the asking price is massive. Mike Garafolo also saying this team has made it clear that it is unlikely to move Quinnen Williams. The price would have to be enormous. First thing you should ask yourself is, okay, what does enormous mean? Like, what does that actually mean? It probably means at least a first-round pick. I would be pretty shocked if the Jets were not asking for at least a 1 for Quinnen Williams, given how good he is. I would be very surprised. Even though the sack numbers might not reflect it, the Jets are bad. They can't do much on offense. They don't get a lot of high-quality pass rush chances. Quinnen is, I think, and the Jets have said this publicly, one of the best 3 techniques in the NFL. He's an awesome player. He's young. He's under team control. I don't think the Jets are going to give him away for anything less than at least a first-round pick. Now, Breece Hall is not going to cost a first-round pick. And pretty much every NFL insider agrees that Hall is a top trade candidate. We'll see if he gets dealt. The Braylon Allen injury from just a logistics perspective might cause some issues there. But this is the best version of Breece Hall we have seen, really since his injury-shortened 2022 campaign. 5 yards per carry, 581 yards. It'd be a pretty hefty dose of Isaiah Davis, I think, if something were to happen to Breece Hall. But certainly one to monitor with plenty of running back, potentially needy teams on the market. Does he get flipped on trade deadline day? It's possible. Predictions. Will the Jets trade away Breece Hall? Y for yes, N for no. Get those predictions in for me in the comment section of today's show. Dianna Russini, kind of the really interesting borderline bombshell on Saturday that the Jags are listening to calls on wide receiver Brian Thomas, even if a move feels highly unlikely, quote unquote. I would be pretty shocked this went down. I'm a little surprised this stuff gets out. Did the Jags leak? Because Liam Cohen said, no, we're not trading him. Did the Jags leak it, or did a different team trying to get Brian Thomas from Jacksonville leak it and try to drum up some interest and chaos and sow some discord and do some false flag operations? I get the Jags trade of Travis Hunter. I think they'd be asking for at least a 1. He's been a disappointment this year, but he was a first-round pick removed from an awesome first season. He's also not going to come cheap. That's a common trend at this year for the NFL trade deadline. I don't think there are a lot of sellers who are just giving away good players. That includes A.J. Brown. Adam Schefter once again throwing out the idea that the Eagles are not going to end up trading away A.J. Brown. This is what Schefter wrote for ESPN. Teams are still eyeing Brown as the trade deadline approaches, according to sources, but the defending Super Bowl champion Eagles are not looking to move the 3-time Pro Bowler. The Eagles would listen to any trade offer, but sources believe they would not be willing to part with Brown for anything less than a blockbuster offer, which is not expected to be forthcoming. I don't know what a blockbuster offer is for A.J. Brown, even at his age. Probably the answer is more than what anyone would realistically be willing to give up, even those of you up in New England. The contract is not really tradable, frankly. So I've never really bought the A.J. Brown trade idea. It felt like it was always such a unlikely outcome right now. I get that he's frustrated. Eagles keep on winning games. I'd be surprised here as well. Today's show is made possible by Ethos. As a father of 2 kids, it's not fun to think about what would happen if something happened to you, but you have to be prepared. Protect your family with life insurance from Ethos. Get your free quote at ethos.com/NFL daily. That's ethos.com/NFL daily. Ethos is a trustworthy company that disrupts the traditional life insurance industry. And as of March 2025, Business Insider named Ethos the #1 no medical exam instant life insurance provider. They're an online platform that makes life insurance fast and easy to protect family's future in minutes, not months. There is no complicated process, and it's 100% online. No medical exam is required. You just answer a few health questions and get a quote in as little as 10 minutes. 3 million families have completed their applications and trusted Ethos to help find the right coverage. Protect your family with life insurance from Ethos. Get your free quote at ethos.com/NFL Daily. That's ETHOS.com/NFL Daily. Application times may vary, rates may vary. Links in the comments and the description of today's show. The Saints have been the subject of plenty of trade rumors, and there's multiple updates on Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, and even Brandon Cooks. Dianna Russini on the Olave front. Barring an unforeseen change, the Saints are not expected to move wide receiver Chris Olave, despite interested suitors. Last week, I reported the two sides are discussing an extension. Adam Schefter with what's going on with the Saints in general. They have said they are not interested in trading away one of their receivers, but league sources believe Rashid Shaheed can be had for the proper price. Teams continue to call the Saints regarding the availability of Shaheed and fellow receiver Chris Olave. The Saints are trying to re-sign Olave to a contract extension. Sources believe they would like to receive at least a third-round pick in any potential trade involving Shaheed. It is noteworthy. Olave, the concussions I think are a valid concern, but he I think is the better receiver in New Orleans. I think he is more just talented and can do more. As fun as Shaheed is, I think third at minimum is a reasonable asking point, because if they don't keep him, you would in theory be in line for a third-round comp pick, and the Saints' books are a little bit stretched thin, so maybe you wouldn't be able to get back all that much. Some teams in the wide receiver market. The Pittsburgh Steelers, these are all per Adam Schefter, by the way. The Buffalo Bills and the Denver Broncos. Buffalo could be a fun fit for Shaheed and just allowing some go-ball stuff there with Josh Allen. I still think they need a true number one. I don't think Shaheed is that, but I think he's one of, if not the best vertical threats in the NFL. I am not surprised to see Ian Rapoport mentioning Brandon Cooks as a trade candidate for the Saints. I think that came directly from the Saints organization. I fully believe it, because if I were the Saints, I'd be doing this. No, we don't want to do Shaheed for that little. How about Brandon Cooks? He's not good anymore. He's been traded a lot. The decline in production from Brandon Cooks has been fairly steep in recent years. So, of the three, who is most likely to be traded by the New Orleans Saints? BC for Brandon Cooks, CO for Chris Olave, or S for Rashid Shaheed? Let me know in the comment section of today's show. More updates here from Adam Schefter saying he expects one of the Dolphins' edges to be dealt this upcoming trade deadline. I would argue that Jalen Phillips makes more sense than Bradley Chubb. Phillips' pressure rate is higher right now, even though the sack rate hasn't quite been the level of impact I think he had been hoping for. Phillips is also the final year of his deal. So if you can get a pick back, allow you to do whatever you want in free agency in the offseason, that might make more sense. Chubb is under contract. His sack numbers are better. His pressure rate allows some underlying concerns with just how overall down in, down out effective he is right now. So I would not be surprised, and my money would be on Jalen Phillips, but I would not be surprised if one of those guys ends up getting dealt. Now, ESPN's Adam Schefter also saying he expects the Vikings to add a veteran quarterback, which does make sense. Carson Wentz is on IR. He's seemingly out for the season. J.J. McCarthy is coming off of an injury. Max Brosmer is the other one. They don't really have a veteran QB. Now, they could go shopping into the old guy market in free agency. You could definitely find somebody on that front. Trade-wise, not high profile. To me, that reads not Russell Wilson, not Kirk Cousins. I don't think Jameis Winston is really available. I don't know if Zach Wilson truly fits that category. As the veteran, he's not exactly a true experienced player. There aren't as many teams carrying three quarterbacks these days because they just are willing to gamble with the two there. One veteran name I would be willing to throw out of maybe see how it plays out. what about Cooper Rush, who lost his backup job with the Baltimore Ravens? All right, more updates here from Dianna Russini. A bunch of trade updates here. We'll go rapid fire on these because they're not as impactful, but certainly worth monitoring. She had 4 teams listed as quarterback needy targets there. The Baltimore Ravens, Indianapolis Colts, Detroit Lions, LA Rams. And she looks smart because, 2 days later, the Rams did trade for Roger McCreary. Conditions on these picks with the Titans likely ends up being the Titans' original 5th-round pick going back to them as part of the Ernest Jones trade. And then the Rams, getting a conditional 6 that could even be a late 6th-round pick on how things play out. So likely a true full-round swap, not this back of the 5th for an early 6th there. McCreary is the most recent player to be dealt. Who's the next one? Can you get that prediction right? Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Now, this came in before the Bengals choked it away against the New York Football Jets and before he injured his hip again. Russini says the Bengals are still not planning on moving Trey Hendrickson. I think from a locker room perspective, the Bengals would probably jeopardize losing all of it if they traded away their best defensive player when they're a game and a half out. Even though they might not actually make it, I don't think many of us think they're going to. It'd be a real issue for them. Other Russini buzz, Denver in the market for tight end help. They did put in 2 claims, missed both of them, with other teams claiming tight ends first. Bills, safety and wide receiver are their target areas. Certainly makes some sense. Pittsburgh, as always, in the market for wide receiver help. And then Russini also dropped a Steve Sarkisian to the NFL buzz, claiming his reps have contacted the Titans about having interest in the job. Sark's camp quickly denied that. I don't think I think Sark is a really good offensive designer. I think he's kind of average as a head coach. I think there are some issues there. But that's the updates from Dianna Russini and more. Mailbag time. Several ways to get in on the show. You can use hashtag NFL or skip the line all together via Super Chat. Get your questions in and give you guys some time to add them here. Elijah asking about Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Yeah, he's not. He had 40 yards for the 49ers who were decimated by injuries on the practice squad. I don't think MVS. I think the Steelers want a 2. MVS is not a 2 at this point. So I do think they'd be looking to add more on that front. So hashtag NFL, skip the line all together via Super Chat. If you have comments, thoughts, ideas, questions for us here as we get rapidly closer to the NFL trade deadline, get your questions in. Hashtag NFL or skip the line altogether via Super Chat. I'm going to sip some of this is caffeinated water, just like there's a little bit of caffeine sugar packet in there. There we go. All right. Get them in. Hashtag NFL is essential or else Producer Aiden simply cannot find your question. I only see a couple here, so we definitely have room for more. So if you are watching live right now, this is the time to get your questions in. Golden Eagle coming through. He's right, by the way. First, beginning or end or anywhere, hashtag NFL doesn't have to be put at the front. It can be put at any point in that mailbag, and Aiden will be able to find it. So get those questions in. And we'll break them down here on NFL Daily. As soon as Aiden gives me the all clear, we'll dive right into it. Before we get into today's mailbag, if you are unable to watch live, you can't be part of the hashtag NFL question crew, that is okay. You can hit me up on Twitter at WhatGoingDowney. I will appreciate your DMs over the bots that have flooded that particular social media site. So hit me up on Twitter at WhatGoingDowney. Lore, always the first person with a question, and I appreciate that about you, my friend. How many picks the Niners have to give up to get Arden Key? I think it's 1. I think that's a day 3 pick. Let me pull up what picks the Niners have here, by the way, minus their comp picks. I don't think it's going to be overly expensive. Arden Key with the Niners, I think makes a lot of sense. He's a short-term solution for a team that just desperately needs options. They just don't have the bodies right now because they are so decimated by injuries. Like they are banged up as all get out. They've lost so many players. Now, they did move one of those picks, I believe, for Bryce Huff, who also got hurt but was playing well. I think Arden Key is a perfect fit in San Francisco. I'm looking at their picks right now. They're a little light, but I think they've got an extra sixth. I don't know. I think they actually are super light on picks. I'm looking at it. They're down to 7, but they got a 6 back for it. I think mid to late day 3 pick is probably all they have to give up there. That Red Sox fan, are the Patriots going to make a pivotal trade? I think that they would like to. I just don't know if they're going to be able to. I think the Patriots in general, it's kind of going to be weird to say, be very happy with how good they have been. Drake May looks like everything I thought he was going to be coming out because I loved him coming out of North Carolina. I think they're kind of like exceeding their own talent level. Like, I don't think that receiving core is that good. I don't think the offensive line is that good. I think Mike Vrabel, again, is getting his team to do more than what the talent level indicates. Could they search for an edge rusher? I think that could make some sense. Does Jalen Phillips fit that mold? Would they trade him in division? So, I would almost wonder if the Patriots are better off not making the exact same mistake the Commanders did by investing too much into an aging player, for example, and being a bit disappointed. I think they should still be in we are building upwards. Any player you get, make sure that they're young and have some long-term impact for you. Those guys are tough to find. But I think maybe edge, receiver, I think those are areas that they'll certainly be monitoring. CTE crew, if the Dolphins got offered a first for Jalen Waddle, would they say yes? They might. I think Waddle's really good. I think he's a fun player. He's dynamic. He's impactful. He's one best. I guess now he's a receiver 1, but had to be one of the best wide receiver 1Bs to the 1A and Tyreek Hill. First round pick. Start waving those around. People get intrigued. Like, the Giants offered a first round pick. Maybe the Giants shouldn't though trade their first round pick because that could be a top 10 pick again. So I think mid-season they probably don't get that offer. But that type of strong offer that makes you go, maybe. Between this video going out and the end of the 2025 NFL trade deadline, how many more trades do we get? Let me know in the comment section your predictions of today's show. How many more trades for the NFL trade deadline? From the Golden Eagle, being a Giants fan, any truth to Kayvon being moved? The Giants get a wide receiver reppin' finally for Dart. I think they've been exploring, and I think this has been reported pretty late, they've been looking around at the wide receiver market. I don't think it's quite what they were hoping for. The big fish, guys like Jalen Waddle, I don't know if they are available in the end. Rashid Shaheed actually might be a decent idea, which would be kind of funny because he's just the supercharged version of Darius Slayton, and then why'd you pay Darius Slayton? But long-term, he's such a good fit with Malik Neighbors. That lets Neighbors do everything else. Doesn't have to just be a deep threat. I love that fit. Trading the top 90 pick is a little bit dicey for the Giants with where they might be picking. And that concerns ownership in the end. I think teams have called on Kayvon Thibodeau. That part is true. Giants moving him? I'm not so sure. And I would say probably not, unless they get a super strong offer that I think is at least a second. And even if it's a second, they might end up saying no. Vikings fans, should the Vikings trade for a running back and or trade for a quarterback to back up Max Brosmer and J.J. McCarthy? So I would say, by the time this video goes out, Minnesota will have added another quarterback. Whether it's a veteran, they go trade for some older guy, or they sign somebody. I think they're going to have to add somebody because they don't want to roll into a game with J.J. McCarthy and Max Brosmer, and they're 8 quarters of play combined in real games. That's very dicey for a young quarterback room. Who that veteran is, I'm not sure. We'll see. I would not trade for a running back, though. I think getting Aaron Jones healthy will be good. Jordan Mason, I still like him. Xavier Scott can do some third down stuff. I know they didn't run the ball that great against the Chargers. The game script, I think, was a pretty big factor there. I don't think they need to go get it back. Christopher C., is it time for Pittsburgh to move on from Tomlin? I'd love to give him the end of his contract and rebuild. Here's the issue you kind of run into here. If you're Mike Tomlin, why would you coach the final year of your deal? Like that's just not job security for you for how long you've been with this franchise. Like at that point, you're like, okay, guys, give me a deal here. What are we doing? The Tomlin era and the John Harbaugh era maybe probably similar to the Andy Reid era, where like it just might for the first time around, this might be time. Like I get the offense has been bad for Mike Tomlin. You pick the coordinators. You get quarterback influence too. Like the buck does stop with the head coach at some point, and the defense is now very stagnant, which I think is a pretty big red flag there. It might be time for a refresh. We'll see. The rest of the year is going to play out first. It's tough to move on from Tomlin if they once again win 9-10 games and make the playoffs, but that defense kind of got to get going here. Today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every day, but the hard-hitting football action is even better with Prize Picks. The weather might be changing, but the feeling of being right never gets old. So keep the season rolling on Prize Picks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. You can get in on the action in more than 40-plus states, including California, Texas, and Georgia. It is the only app that offers stacks. The same play up to 3 times in the same lineup. Maybe Josh Allen more than passing, rushing yards, and touchdowns. You can also follow other Prize Picks players directly on the app and copy their lineups in one click. A friend, somebody partner, or someone whose picks you like. Do it all in the new feed tab on Prize Picks. One of our Prize Picks lineups this week, Cameron Dicker, the kicker, more than 7.5 points against the Titans. Jimmy DK, more than a half touchdown. And Justin Herbert, more than 1.5 passing touchdowns. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Links in the comment section and the description of today's show. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. From Dead Inside. Do you see the Ravens being aggressive in acquiring Quinnen Williams? That defense badly misses Madubuike. I do agree that they miss him pretty badly. They don't have, like, I like Travis Jones a lot, but they don't have that disruptive interior presence, like, without Madubuike. You know, Urban and Jenkins are run cloggers. CJ Okoye is a clogger. Aeneas Peebles, I liked him coming out, but he's a 6th-round rookie. I think Ravens defensive tackle is an underrated trade idea for Baltimore to pursue. I just don't know if the Jets would say yes or anything other than a first-round pick. And the Ravens just might be inclined to keep that first-round pick. But I do think you're spot on. They really miss Madubuike. TV and sleep. Should the Giants trade for Jordan Addison? Can they include a trade package with Winston and a pick? I don't think the Vikings want a starter. I think they want the veteran backup. So that pick's going to have to be super expensive because Minnesota is extremely invested in making J.J. McCarthy work. If it doesn't work with McCarthy, you're going to start losing jobs, like because you let Sam Darnold go. He looks great in Seattle. So trading away your number 2 receiver, who's done really good stuff, by the way, since he came back from his suspension, for a pick that's not, like, frankly, a first rounder, which is a lot and probably too much for the Giants. That's why I think that deal does not end up going down. Dave, did Kirk Cousins sink his trade value this week? I think the biggest issue is the money. A team would take on Kirk Cousins for the vet minimum, but the Falcons don't want to eat that amount of money. He wasn't good. I look, I get that the Falcons kind of late in the week ended up losing Drake London, and they had a tough time running the ball against one of the NFL's worst run defenses, but like, I mean, I get it. Like, why were you not throwing it to Darnell Mooney more? Like, why are you throwing 8 targets to Kaderil Hodge? How does that make sense? So I just think, like, for the cost, no one's going to be very interested. Will the Falcons trade Kirk Cousins this year or next offseason? Which I think is still probably nothing he gets cut. But why for yes and for no? Let me know in the comment section of today's show. Pai Young G, should the Seahawks go for Chris Olave? And how many picks? I assume CO is Chris Olave. If not, I guess I'm answering the wrong question. I don't mind the idea of Seattle adding another wide receiver. I think Olave's price point is going to be because Saints trying to work on an extension. Is that a leverage movement? I don't know. Like, the narrative would be they tried to work on an extension, couldn't do it, so they traded him. But that's probably going to be at least a 2, if not a little bit more, given how wonky the wide receiver market in general is super duper wonky. For years now, we've had so many weird trades. Metcalf for a 2, Pickens for a 3 are reasonable. Mohamed Sanu for a 2 at the deadline. Those are always weird. Christopher C. Should Pittsburgh extend Rodgers by 1 year, draft a quarterback day 1, so should have sit and learn for a year? Here's how I suspect the Aaron Rodgers thing plays out. Assuming like the Steelers, do their normal stuff. There's no injuries, whatever. Rodgers might not make his call again until like July. Like, would anyone be surprised by that? Would anyone be surprised? Like, I think if you could do it and he keeps playing at the pretty reasonable level he's playing at, that makes sense. That's actually a good plan. My concern for Pittsburgh is that we're going to do the is he playing or not thing all over again. And Pittsburgh is probably going to have to make a decision sooner this time. Otherwise, it just kind of feels like a weird situation. Which it is weird. That's how it goes with him. If you guys want to be a part of future mailbags, or if you missed this one, then subscribe. Stop by. Next week, we'll have our live trade deadline coverage. Still do more NFL YouTube videos all off season long. Hit that sub button so you don't miss out. From Jack Nicholson. Sure, that's it. Who is the next most likely cornerback trade candidate after the Roger McCreary deal? I would go with Reek Woolen. I know he played a little bit more because of injuries. Feels like Seattle just doesn't want him. And it's going to be a rental, but if you're not playing him, you're actually kind of tanking his trade value or his contract value and getting yourself less of a comp pick back. I would bet he gets moved. I forget who it was. Was it some like Tony Pauline would be like, yeah, Seattle's got in a Reek Woolen for Devon Achane trade. Like, well, duh. The Dolphins don't. So why even say it? Like, there's no benefit to that. Whatever. I digress. All right. Sting Like a Bee is next up here. Says Rattler to the Rams for a 5th or 6th round pick as Stafford's waiting in the wings successor. I don't know why the Rams would do that. Guys, Spencer Rattler just got benched by the Saints. Are we sure he's the waiting in the wings successor for anybody? I did appreciate the fun, like, 4 weeks, 5 weeks of, like, I don't know how to put this delicately, nerd football, like, Spencer Rattler's playing good football. But I'm like, is he? Like, he's not terrible, and he's not making mistakes. He ain't making that many big plays either. And the wheels have fallen off the past 2 weeks. I don't think Rattler is the solution for anybody out there. I think he can just kind of be a backup in the end. All right, Christopher C. Who are some of your underrated quarterbacks for the 2026 class? And then what makes you like them? Good question. I'll be honest, I think I owe Brendan Sorsby apology for some text I sent after first week of the season. That's the Cincinnati quarterback. He was horrible against Nebraska. And since then, he's been nails. He's got a lot of the stuff you like traits-wise, mobility, some arm strength, have put up some good numbers for a Bearcats team that like has kind of rallied the ship a little bit here. So I think that is certainly a huge factor in elements of that. I don't love the quarterback class. A lot of the guys kind of fall into they've got traits, but I haven't done anything with them yet. From Betty White, I guess it's just a celeb day here in the comments. Why won't their teams trade Hendrickson, Crosby, and Simmons? I assume this is Jeffrey Simmons. Those outside of Hendrickson, they're all under contract for multiple years. And, I think that's high asking prices. The Bengals don't think they're out of it yet. Maybe they should, but they don't think they're out of it yet. The Raiders and Crosby don't want to trade. So unless they get blown away, teams in general don't just give away their best players for the player you don't want and a mediocre pick. Name a player who you think ends up getting traded. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Final question from Rocket Raccoon. Reunite Logan Wilson with Pratt and Lou Anarumo in Indy. I wouldn't be shocked. It'd be kind of funny that ended up happening. I think Indy is one of like the logical fits if the Bengals trade Logan Wilson. I would like to say I don't know if the Bengals made the right move benching Logan Wilson. I'm watching their young linebackers play, and they're not doing a good job. I'm not actually sure benching Wilson was the correct decision. And I wonder if the frustration from Wilson requesting that trade stemmed from him repeatedly watching his teammates not do a good job at that spot. Thursday Night Football, who you got? R for the Ravens, D for the Dolphins. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Who you got? R for the Ravens, D for the Dolphins. Get some shout outs here. Pick says Ravens by 13 plus. We got not a sponsor, but Touchdown Jackpot's back this week. Aiden, because you and I were like, we love the Rondé Gadsden. I am in shambles. I got screwed by the Herbert touchdown. It happened. I had it. It was be the last one. I am so mad about that. I am so mad about it.
Oh, my
It's ridiculous.
Gosh. It was always Gadsden. And we took the Jonnu Smith touchdown on that one.
We did have that, yeah. We did have that.
The juiced, obscure touchdowns. I think I went over 2. It was horrible, but I took I'm the type of guy that would take a Baker anytime and an A.J. Barner anytime when that Bucs-Seahawks game happened.
I'm sure you did. So. I might I dropped my pen. I might go back to Lamar.
That seems like a given.
Return game for Lamar.
Yeah.
Henry is gonna score, but I don't like picking the favorite. That's lame for me. So who we got? R for the Ravens, D for the Dolphins. Nick does say Fins, by the way. But Lore, Brandon, Dead Inside, Ken, all typing in their R's. Keep the votes coming. R or D. And we will get to the final segment of today's live show. We'll run through some trade candidates here on NFL Daily. The NFL trade deadline is days away. We're breaking down the top 25 trade candidates as of our live show Tuesday night. Hopefully nothing changes and it ruins the video. I did try to focus more on the names who could actually be available. The Raiders are not going to trade away Max Crosby. I don't think the Bengals are going to trade away Trey Hendrickson. I don't think Jalen Waddle's getting flipped. It'd be fun to be wrong on that because that's exciting, though. And there have not been enough trades as of late. Do you want to see more trades? Show it by liking the video for me, please, and thank you if you want to see some more trades happen. Let's go through positionally, offense to defense, some top trade candidates. Quarterback Russell Wilson. I don't think anybody wants him. I wonder if this is the end of the line for Russ. The Giants' offense looks so much more fun and good with him not out there on the field. I don't know if a team is going to be in the market there. Breece Hall is next up, the Jets running back. I don't know if he gets dealt. There's no Braylon Allen, but could be a nice run for Isaiah Davis. I think this is the best version, though, of Breece Hall we've seen in several years. The mobile quarterback helps, by the way. Boosts all backs. It's a rising tide, lifts all boats things. Jets are bad. Getting a pick back, though, would make sense for them. A lesser name to monitor is Jerome Ford of the Browns. You have the emergence of Quinshon Judkins. They did kind of redo Ford's deal to save them some money, make him more palatable in a trade. Hasn't played a lot, but has had some success in the past. Would not be surprised if Ford ends up getting flipped by the Browns to somebody. Jacoby Myers has requested a trade, said, I am still open to being traded. Hasn't been dealt yet. Coming off the bye, coming off injuries. I thought it might be dealt during the bye. Raiders are kind of just a weird team right now where, his numbers aren't that different average-wise from last year. It's just that the volume has certainly taken a bit of a precipitous drop-off so far. But there are plenty of wide receiver needy teams. If I had to guess, this is the first name that I am most confident ends up getting dealt. There are other names that I think also get moved, but we'll get to them. Two-part ask on today's pinned comment. Shout out your team and name a player you want them to trade for. So a bit of a complicated ask, but you guys are all smart. So if the ad comes on YouTube, take advantage. Shout out your team and name a player you want to trade for. The Saints are next up here. Rashid Shaheed who has been the guy most linked by insiders is like the non-Brandon Cooks name because he's not good anymore, who could get flipped. The Saints working on an extension for Chris Olave. We'll see. It could always change. That ends up not happening. Shaheed is a super fun vertical threat, big-time play. If you need to help out your passing game, he does that. Speed still matters in the NFL, and I think Shaheed would be a big impact for a bunch of different pieces. Tight ends, David Njoku is next up here. Look, the Browns are weird with what they do on offense. They do deploy both their tight ends at a pretty high clip, but Harold Fannin is the long-term tight end one for them. Njoku is kind of not getting targeted, but has very much kind of seen his production fall off there. There might not be that many tight end needy teams. Njoku is one of them. So too is Mark Andrews. I wouldn't be shocked to see the Ravens just continue to move more and more into the give Isaiah Likely the lead tight end spot. Andrews' numbers over the course of several years from a consistency standpoint have very much begun to slide down. Likely has not been very productive this year either. He's got just, 5 catches this year. Did miss some time earlier in the year. Hasn't played that much with Lamar Jackson, so the tight ends numbers are all down in Baltimore. But Ravens could maybe get something back for him. It is tough to find offensive linemen who get traded because if you're a starter, teams do not like trading you away. That's how it goes. Braxton Jones got benched by Chicago. He started games. A team might have interest there. Evan Neal was an extremely high-value draft pick. He has not been very good for the New York Giants. Would not be surprised if the Giants, if they can get anything for him, move on. Now, today's show is made possible by Ethos. As a father of 2 kids, it's not fun to think about what would happen if something happened to you, but you got to be prepared. Protect your family with life insurance from Ethos. Get your free quote at ethos.com/NFL Daily. That's ethos.com/NFL Daily. Ethos is a trustworthy company that disrupts the traditional life insurance industry. And as of March 2025, Business Insider named Ethos the #1 no medical exam instant life insurance provider. They're an online platform making life insurance fast and easy. Protect your family's future in minutes and not months. There is no complicated process, and it's 100% online. No medical exam is required. You answer a few health questions and get a quote in as little as 10 minutes. 3 million families have completed their applications and trusted Ethos to help find the right coverage for them. Protect your family with life insurance from Ethos. Get your free quote at ethos.com/NFL Daily. That's ethos.com/NFL Daily. Application times may vary, rates may vary. Links in the comments and the description of today's show. TJ Bass of the Cowboys has also started some games over the course of his NFL career, and for the most part has been at least serviceable is how I would describe that one. Of note for Bass and the Cowboys, unlike, for example, Evan Neal, RFA status for Bass. So they would be able to retain him if they really, really needed to. Let's go defense heavy the rest of the way here. Jalen Phillips, I think, is the most likely, notable, not Melvin Ingram, edge that could get dealt by the Miami Dolphins. He is on an expiring contract. And if the Dolphins aren't going to pay him, which they drafted Chop Robinson, they signed Bradley Chubb, I would argue that Jalen Phillips makes the most sense. But team might still want Bradley Chubb as well. I will put both of those Dolphins edges on there. I'm thinking one of them ends up getting moved. Chubb actually has more sacks this year than Phillips, but fewer pressures. He's finished off his pressure chances at a higher rate. But I do think from a more advanced perspective, you can argue that Phillips has been better. Wouldn't be shocked if a team traded for Phillips and he had like 5 sacks down the stretch over the course of the season. So pick one to trade for if you're a team that's in the market for an edge, obviously. BC for Bradley Chubb, JP for Jalen Phillips. The Jets have said they're not going to trade Jermaine Johnson. John said he doesn't want to get traded, so this one is a slight stretch. I think it's still more available than Quinnen Williams is. I like Jermaine Johnson. I think there's a reason teams are calling. He's got an extra year of team control, and I do think that intrigues teams. The sack numbers are not good. The Jets are bad, and it turns out, guys, it's hard to get sacks on a bad team. Kayvon Thibodeau has had teams calling about him in talks with the New York Football Giants. Much like Johnson, not as convinced this move ends up happening. Thibodeau is a good football player. The sack numbers aren't quite where I'd like him to be. The pressure rate's not either. Some coaching issues on defense up in New York. All my Giants friends do not like Shane Bowen. Go figure. I think that because he's under team control, the Giants are not in any rush barring a big-time trade. Arden Key of the Titans is next up here. And I think trading away someone like Arden Key makes a lot of sense. He's kind of been a journeyman over the course of his NFL career. He's been with the Titans for several years now. The Jags have had him. The Raiders have had him. He had the one brief year with the 49ers, helped him get paid by Jacksonville. If you want a mercenary edge, which I think the Niners stand out as a really good fit there, by the way, trading for Key is an option. Keion White has seemingly fallen out of favor in New England when last year felt like the breakout year was kind of underway. He hasn't played very much. Really bad pressure rate, but the draft pedigree there when he's just apparently not a fit for Mike Vrabel anymore, which it happens, does make sense. Maybe you could even see New England try to package him as part of a deal for a different player since they're a contender and they could be buyers this year. We'll have free NFL trade deadline coverage for you right here on the channel, so do not miss out. Hit that sub button, youtube.com/chatsportstv. Logan Wilson, the Bengals linebacker, has requested a trade. The Bengals are precariously thin at linebacker. They're banged up, and frankly, the rookies aren't playing well. And I would argue maybe the Bengals would actually be better off in terms of finding a way to get him back on the field. But I do think somebody like Logan Wilson should intrigue any linebacker-needy team. I don't think he is the issue with that Bengals defense. Next up is Demario Davis, the Saints linebacker. If he wants out, I bet the Saints would say sure. I am uncertain if he actually wants out of New Orleans. There have been several players for the Saints, like Alvin Kamara, who have expressed interest in not wanting to leave. But if Davis wants to go ring chase, maybe the Saints do right by him, so to speak. Christian Harris, the Texans, hasn't been playing much. He's very much fallen out of favor in Houston. A couple years removed from this guy could be a huge piece of that defense after 2023, and then he's got 23 tackles and 9 games played since then. Very much has been a non-factor for Christian Harris. Lante Taylor of the Saints is next up here. They've got some young corners. The ESPN report was they don't want to trade him, but they'd listen. He's coming off in the midst of a better season. The sacks and TFLs and pass breakups might be down priority-wise, but the beat in coverage stuff is not as bad at this point in time, which I think is very much worth monitoring. So between now and the NFL trade deadline, over or under 9.5 trades. O for over, U for under. Let me know in the comments of today's show. Michael Carter II of the Jets. Remember, they made the move for a different corner. Carter not playing as much. If you're in the market for a nickel, with Jarvis Brownlee now in New York, I do think calling about Michael Carter is a reasonably affordable trade candidate for the Jets to consider flipping. Bigger name at corner, though, is Reek Woolen. It just feels like Seattle doesn't like him anymore, and they don't want to deal. They don't want him playing as much anymore. If they can find a trade partner, I'm a little surprised they haven't yet. Maybe they're trying to max out that value a bit more. I think a team should come calling. He's not going to probably put up 16 pass breakups, 6 INTs, but I don't think he's a bad player at all. The Bengals and Cam Taylor-Britt. It feels like once a year, CTB just gets benched by the Bengals. It happened again against the Steelers, and he came back and played the next week, and the Bengals defense still stunk. I think he's done in Cincinnati after this year. The former second-round pick. It's a matter of does anyone want him right now. Under the radar name for the Dolphins, I think it's Mika Fitzpatrick. The trade for him when they shipped out Ramsey, I thought was kind of weird because I'm like, do you want to go get another vet? That was kind of interesting to me. He's not the player he was at his absolute peak in prime, which was probably 2022. but he's still good. He's still a starter. And if you want a safety, I think Minka stands out. Now, safety I know is available is Kyle Duggar, who has very much fallen down the depth chart in New England. Rapoport saying he's probably going to be on the move, but here's the thing, the contract. He's not cheap. And would the Patriots eat some of the money to get him off the books? Maybe, maybe not. But this is another player that feels like when, not if, whether it's pre-trade deadline or next offseason, is no longer with their current team. Over or under 9.5 trades between now and the NFL trade deadline. O for over, U for under. Let me know in the comment section of today's show. O for over, U for under. Got a $10 super chat before we go today from Bryce Blackwell. Thank you very much, Bryce. I appreciate that. I definitely see a lot of trades coming, especially with what the Titans are doing. Teams that need that missing piece in cap room will make moves, but I got over 7 moves being made. I think that's reasonable. I think it is a seller's market, which is why there hasn't been that much buying yet, because the sellers want to wait and see if they can maximize their returns. But I hope we get some more traction. It's kind of been slow so far. So final call, O for over, U for under, 9.5 trades. I guess I picked the right number because it's 55% over. So pretty close to 50-50. So I guess I picked the right line. We'll have more coverage for you here on the channel all week long, going into the trade deadline, through it, winners, losers, you name it. Hit that sub button so you don't miss out. YouTube.com/chatsportstv.